We've got a couple of unique testimonies for you as we transition into a particular issue. You could say that Rob Wilton did a great job of setting the stage for us and giving us an overview of the concept of identity in Christ. But there's a number of things out in the culture that are really attacking, especially young people. The idea of your sexuality, especially the issue of homosexuality, same-sex marriage, and there's a real challenge out there of what do we think about this, and how do we look at this particular issue? What is my identity when it relates to that particular area? And so as we move into that, we're going to have a number of speakers. We're going to have a panel discussion. I know we've got a number of questions that we've already had our students give me, and they kind of related to some of the questions that I wanted to ask this panel as well. And so we're going to move into something that's very profound, significant, super relevant. But one of the things I wanted to have is I wanted to share a couple testimonies with you of just individuals who have had this area of struggle in their own life. The first one is going to be Simone LONON. Now, Simone was going to be with us, and something came up at work at the last minute, and so she's not going to be able to be here. But we actually found her on a website, the Village Church, Matt Chandler's church over at the Highland Village. Her personal testimony is on there, and we found it and contacted Simone and invited her to come, and she was really excited about being here and being able to share this with you and being on the panel. But even though she's not going to be able to be here, we wanted you to listen to her testimony anyway. It's 3 minutes. I know it's difficult when a person's not here, but it's an audio testimony, so you're going to have to just listen. And I want you to understand, right, just how God has rescued her from that lie that the world caught her into. And then Ricky Chelette is going to come up, and some of you probably know that Ricky's been here a number of times talking to our staff and talking to our adults. He's in Arlington. He's the executive director of Living Hope Ministries. He's a minister on staff at First Baptist Arlington. He has 25 years of ministry experience dealing with youth and ministry and really addressing this particular issue that we're about to dive into. He's married. His wife, Merlinda, are down in Arlington, and I know that you're going to enjoy not only Ricky's personal testimony, but he's also on the panel. He's going to give us some real-life experience of dealing with a number of students who struggle with these issues, especially with same-sex attraction. So these two testimonies are going to happen, and then I'll come up and I'll introduce Sean McDowell and John Stone Street as well. So please listen to Simone and to Ricky.
Dear Jesus, thank you for loving me more than she ever could or would, she who convinced me she was my person. Being naive to the meaning of love and fickle to the conviction of your word, I gave in to her plea. My whole life, I watched my grandparents sleep in separate rooms. My father cheated on my mother and left our family before I was born. My aunt fled her abusive husband. At the mere age of 18, my brother believed he was doing the right thing by marrying the mother of his child, only to find out his now ex-wife was pregnant with another man's child 3 months after their wedding. I never knew unfailing love, so I eagerly invited into my life the first person who claimed to have it for me, despite that person being a girl. However, it was not true love, and I exchanged the truth of your word for lies and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator. I found myself putting her first, particularly because of the secrecy of it all. I began to distance myself from my friends and family, spending every free moment with her. Any extra money went toward entertaining us rather than giving back and encouraging others like I once did. Worst of all, I found myself clinging to her during hard times instead of your word. My spirit knew no peace while she consumed my every thought, and I could feel that our relationship was unhealthy. I had no love for the person I was becoming. You told me in Leviticus 20:13 that surely I shall be put to death. Thank you for putting that me to death. So I ran. I ran to you like a wild horse that longs for endless pasture, rehearsing in my mind these words. Lord, you promised to hold me in perfect peace as long as I keep my mind on you. If I call upon your name with a sincere heart, you will never turn away from me. And you didn't. Instead, you welcomed me with open arms when I was least deserving of your love. You fought for me, and I am so grateful you won. The love you have shown me goes well beyond what I could ever dream of. Your Father showed me through 1 John 3:16 through 18 what love truly is. You showed me love when you took those lashes and were nailed to the cross. I cannot fathom the pain you endured to bring me home. Your love for me is boundless. My future husband is going to have a difficult time keeping a close second to you. The Monday after Resurrection Sunday, a coworker mentioned that I was glowing. I replied, "It's Jesus." I went to 3 church services this past weekend because I couldn't get enough of him. I thirst to know you more. I hunger for your word, and I commit to following it. Thank you for placing individuals in my life who fanned the flame of my love for you. When telling my mother of my devotion to my walk with you, the conversation was pure and effortless. I did not fear her response or crave her approval. Now, 1 year and 2 months later, I stand before your children to do the same. You are my person. You are in every step I make. You are glorified in everything I do. Please allow me to bring more of your children home. Love eternally, Simone.
Well, good morning. What an incredible story of how God transforms lives. Well, my story is a little bit different than that one. I started off kind of in a bad situation. I, too, am from New Orleans, lived in New Orleans, was born in New Orleans, and actually was conceived in New Orleans on a hot August evening in the backseat of an automobile. My parents weren't married. They didn't know Jesus. They didn't have a relationship with Christ. And 9 months later, here I am out into this world. And so things, at the beginning weren't so bad. I mean, my dad did the right thing, at least what he thought was the right thing. He went ahead and married my mom, and they got together and decided they were going to make this little family. My dad, being a decent guy, said, "You know what, I need to learn how to take care of this family." And because back then you didn't go to high school when you were pregnant, so they both dropped out of school in their senior year, he thought, what do I need to do to make a living? So he took a job that took him offshore. And it's Louisiana, we have oil industry, and so he went into that field. And so he's gone most of the time. It's just me and my mom. She's a stay-at-home mom and a great mom. She loves on me as best she can. I've got 2 aunts. Both of them weren't married or were divorced. And then I had 2 grandmothers, and both of them had been divorced multiple times. So it was a really cool household of just women. It was me and a whole bunch of chicks. And so I was like, well, this is great. They loved me, and I was the little boy. And I was this little really precocious, kind of gifted little guy who loved to sing and dance and do all this stuff. And I'd perform every time the parents or the family would show up. And so I was, an entertaining little kid, and people liked me. I went off to school and did really well in school. My teachers liked me. I made A's, got good grades. I wanted to be a good boy. I really wanted to make people proud of me. But I really longed to have a connection with my dad. But he just wasn't around, hardly at all. And despite the fact that I longed to have that affection from him and attention from him, it just didn't happen very much. And then when he did come home, it was kind of weird because he'd be gone so long that when he came home, it interrupted our life. And it was kind of an aggravation, and I was kind of hoping he would just leave, but then I wanted him to stay. Well, life went on, and I got into junior high school. I was pretty successful there, became a student council president in my junior high school, went on to high school, was in National Honor Society, and made the straight A's in the honor roll and all that stuff, became student council president again in my senior year, and I did really well, so well, in fact, that my faculty said, hey, we would love you to give the commencement address at graduation. You're graduating near the top of your class, and we want you to communicate to the other students. I was like, great, I'll do that, and so I did it, and everybody applauded, and everybody thought it was great, and folks came to me and said, gosh, this is just amazing. You really got it together. Everything is awesome. And it looked like that from the outside. I mean, I got a big scholarship to go off to college. I made great grades. I gave the commencement address. I was teenager of the year. Everything seemed great. But you see, there was a little secret that I was keeping that they didn't know about. A secret that was really pretty devastating to me, but nobody knew it because I put on a good front. I looked the part of a good kid. You see, when I was a little bitty boy, just about 5 or 6 years old, one of my grandmothers got married for the 3rd time, and when she did, she married a man who came into our family, and that man started loving on me and investing in me and taking time with me and taking me fishing and hunting, and we did all these really cool things together, and it was awesome. It was incredible. I loved it. He gave me all the attention and affection and affirmation that I needed from my dad. It was fantastic. The only problem was that we didn't know that that man was also a pedophile. And he began to molest me as a little boy from the time I was 5, and that happened week in and week out from the time I was 5 until I was in my latter teen years, even early 20s. It happened so often and so regularly that I really thought that that's what everybody did with Grandpa. I didn't know that people didn't do that with their grandpa. I didn't know that is until I was about in that junior or senior year when all of a sudden I started looking around and listening and realized other people weren't doing what my grandfather and I were doing. And I also noticed that all of a sudden I had these really weird kind of draws towards some of my best buddies in school. I didn't want to have it. I didn't ask for it to happen. I didn't choose it, but yet they were there, and I kept thinking, well, this isn't right. I don't want to be this kind of person. Now, there wasn't anything in my family that would have prevented me from being gay. I had a gay cousin, a gay uncle. Everybody celebrated them. They were quite successful. They owned restaurants in New Orleans. I mean, it was a big deal. And so I thought I could be that, but there was something inside of me that said, no, you know what? You need not be that way. There's something that isn't right about it. And so there I was after graduation with the weight of the world upon my shoulders, having a family that was pretty dysfunctional, a dad that was very disconnected. And I kept thinking to myself, I just want out of this. And I don't know how to fix it. So I did what anybody would do when there's absolutely no other options. I decided I'd try to kill myself. So never before doing drugs or alcohol or doing anything really bad other than sleeping with Grandpa, I went into my mom's medicine cabinet and grabbed all the medicine I could and took the medicine and went to sleep early one morning hoping that that night would never come for me. But my mom found me, and obviously I didn't die. But about 2 weeks after that, the pain was there, the guilt was there, the shame was there, everything was there just weighing me down, and I decided, you know what, I just need to end it, but I need to do it better this time. I mean, we're from Louisiana, everybody has lots of guns, even more than Texas, I think. And so I went into my dad's gun cabinet, grabbed a pistol, got that pistol, went back into my bedroom, knelt down on the side of my bed, put the gun in my mouth, and was about to pull the trigger. When in that moment when I was about to pull the trigger, I remembered a couple of sermons I had heard when a buddy of mine at school had invited me to his church because he wanted me to sing in his piano recital. I had a good voice, he had a good piano. And so I was going to sing for him. But you know how those church people are, they make you come to church before you can practice. Well, that's what I did. I'd come to church and I'd heard something about this gospel, about how this gospel can transform people's lives and change people's hearts. And I heard that and I believed that. Well, not really. I thought it was stupid. Matter of fact, I thought you people that were Christians were weak-minded. You needed a crutch. I didn't need that. I understood the science stuff, and I understood all this other stuff, and I was like, I'm smarter than that. I don't need Jesus. But in that moment, with that pistol in my mouth, I began to remember that, and I thought, this might be the only hope there is. So I pulled the pistol out of my mouth and I cried out into the darkness of that night, God, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you're there. I don't know if you are who they say you are, but if you are, will you come right now and do something in my heart? Because if you don't, I'm going to pull this trigger and blow my brains out. And I'm happy to report to you that that night in that room all by myself, Jesus showed up in a way and came into my heart. Now, I didn't see him. He didn't talk to me in an audible voice, but I felt the presence of God and something miraculous changed in my heart. And I felt in my spirit that God had said two things, gave two promises to me. One, I will never leave you or forsake you. And two, I will be a father to the fatherless. Now, that was over 30 years ago. And I've continued to follow Jesus from that moment on. I haven't always been as faithful as I should have been, but in the process of that following him, God has begun to transform my heart. And several years later, lots of years later actually, I met a beautiful woman, this tall, redhead, green-eyed, gorgeous-looking model lady that I shouldn't be married to. But I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And I said, let's go. And we got married. Now, she knew about all my junk. She knew about my attractions to men. She knew about the homosexuality that was very much a part of my life. And she said, but I love you because I love the Jesus that is in you. Now, y'all, I want you to hear me say that I'm here today as a living example to show you, to say to you that people can change. Everything in me, every attraction that I had, every desire of my heart was to cleave not to a woman, but to a man. I wanted to have a wonderful relationship with another man. I was attracted to men. I wanted that relationship. But then all of a sudden, when Christ came into my heart, he began to transform me and change me. And I understand who I really was rather than what I thought I felt. And so God began to transform my heart. And to this day, we've been married now 26 years. We have a great relationship. She loves me, I love her. We have a great ministry together. It's a wonderful thing. God changes people's hearts. There's some of you here this morning that think, I don't know if God can change people. The world says that homosexuality can't change. I'm telling you that the God who raised Jesus from the dead, who made a man who was dead to come to life, never to die again, is the same Jesus who wants to work in your heart with whatever sin problem you may have to transform you. If we don't believe that is true, we don't really believe the gospel. The gospel is transformational. It will change your heart. It has certainly changed mine. Thank you.